Hello everyone and welcome back to the GeekWave. This is the low budget show. It's the show so low it has no budget. But you know, we might dream big, and dreams are like where possibility starts, or whatever the movie we're talking about this week means. I don't know. It's Wonka time, everybody. That's the big new movie of the end of the year. It's really weird to say that in the year of 2023, the biggest movie to end out the Christmas season is going to be a Willy Wonka musical starring Timothée Chalamet. Like, if you told me that 12 years ago, I wouldn't believe you. If you told me that 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't believe you. But that's where we are, folks. This week, we're talking all things Roald Dahl. A guy that is nice and normal and has never done anything wrong. Sarcasm, of course. Just to kind of round out the year, there are so many movies coming out at the end of the year, and I needed to talk about Wonka. I figured we could do a bigger episode about Wonka and then some of the other adaptations to see how they compare, because that might be interesting to explore. And then we'll get into other, like, Roald Dahl stuff. Because, you know, he's a guy people like, I guess. I don't know. His work's prolific, and Netflix bought all of it or something. I don't know. And I just got too much stuff to do in the end of the year, so dedicating a whole, like, review to Wonka, I just couldn't do it. So if I can do it in this episode and then whip out the Roald Dahl stuff, doesn't need to be two separate videos. So these videos come out every Monday. The GeekWave always releases on a Monday, and we got two more, including this one for the end of the year. So this one, we're not going to be doing any news. There won't be any news category this week. We'll do, for the end of the year, a big news breakdown. So the one that will come out on Christmas Day is all the news of the past 3 weeks. That'll be a little bit of a longer video, I'm thinking, because there's a lot of stuff that has happened, a couple deaths we need to talk about. And then for the first episode of the GeekWave in 2024, we are going to be looking at another movie, which is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and we're going to be talking the finality, the end, the death, if you will. They took it out kicking and screaming into the back of the barn, and they shot it in the head, and it's the death of the DCEU, and that's going to be the first episode of 2024, and like releasing throughout now to the end of the year, probably like the beginning of January. We'll be doing all the top 10s. I'm not going to do a huge GeekWave top 10. I got bigger plans for that stuff later. So it's Wonka time. Everybody, are you excited? They announced this movie a little while ago. Wonka was one of those ones where it's like, somebody wants to do it. It's a prolific character. There's always a Funko Pop available. Everybody wants to make a Wonka movie. And of course, Warner Brothers is like, yeah, we can do it. We've never messed up Wonka before. Easy buckets for us. And I guess that's true enough, you know? Like, Wonka, I think of all, like, the doll stuff, it's the one that is maybe, like, the most cinematic and the most interesting cinematically, because when we look at, like, the other list here, I don't think people are going to be like, yay, these are all really cool. At least I'm not. Maybe you are. I don't really know. But, you know, Wonka, cool guy. You know, Paul King, a director that I guess makes sense to make this movie. He made the Paddingtons. People love those. They admire them. They enjoy them. They want to live with them. Good movies. I think they're fine. I've never, like, loved them as much as other people have, which is fine. I don't have to. Those are specifically made for other people, and that's okay. I don't have to be the guy for those, but, you know, there's, like, a fun, lighthearted, like, British energy to the Paddington world. And I guess if you're Warner Brothers, you kind of want that same energy to be brought to your Willy Wonka movie. So Paul King makes sense in that capacity to make this movie. And I don't think anybody was like clamoring for it, but sure, we'll make it. The first images started to flood out of Timothée Chalamet. And I remember, because even I, a long time ago, I made a video talking about who should play Willy Wonka. I think he's a prolific character of the medium. And my choice has always been, and to this day, if we want to find somebody to reignite that classic flavor of Gene Wilder, my choice still remains Alan Tudyk. If we want to just completely do that Willy Wonka, that weird energy, that freaky guy that's kind of scary and is willing to go there, it's Alan Tudyk or it's nobody to me. I think he'd be perfect, but this movie, as with everything, is a prequel, so we have to see how Willy became Wonka, as the trailers imply. And there have been a couple of trailers to this movie. None of them really showcase the idea that this is going to be a musical. That is hardly put in the trailers, aside from like the classic like Pure Imagination and Oompa Loompa songs. But folks, if you still have not seen Wonka at this point, and maybe you haven't seen any of the promotional material, Wonka is a straight up musical, which in 2023 is a really cool thing to see. Now, on that note too, we do have to bring up that there was like some test, whatever the fuck's done by some prolific people in Hollywood that said the only way to get an audience to see a musical is to trick them into the cinema. And that sounds terrible because people are like, oh, I'm not going to explicitly go see a musical. That new Mean Girls movie that's coming out in a couple of weeks, that is also a musical that's not being targeted as a musical. It's not being advertised as a musical because, God forbid, things are easy, right? So I could completely see how somebody coming out to see Wonka gets upset it's a musical. But at that same note, and again, this might be a topic for another video, I cannot imagine being upset you're seeing a musical. Now, I know I'm not somebody who speaks for everyone, and that's fine. Musicals are my favorite genre of movie. I love a good musical. I love enjoying a musical. I think they're so much fun. There's an artistry that has to go into it. There's a perfectness that has to go into it. It's allowed to be silly and fun, but it can also be intense and gripping. You can go to every which way you want in a musical. And it has to look perfect. You can't mess up. If you're doing an action sequence, it's okay to look tired, and it's okay to look like you just went through hell. With a musical, you always have to be perfect, pitch perfect. There can be no flaw in a musical dance number, and that makes it on like the same level as like struggle and interpretation as like a fight sequence. It is something that matters and needs to look a certain way. Some people don't like that. I understand. I understand why, but I will never be mad that a movie is a musical. And I think once you hear the first song, because the movie does kind of open up with Chalamet doing a song, you kind of settle into it. Now, me chronically being online and doing this for a living, I am well aware of everything that goes into this movie. So I know it's a musical, and I see the movies, and I know that they're not advertising it as such, but I'm aware of what we're doing. So my expectations go in expecting this to be a song and dance number, which it is, and that's great. It's going to be very interesting to see how Warner Brothers next year markets Joker 2 under the same umbrella, because that's also a musical that they're faking and lying about. And Maestro has some musical to it too, but whatever. So this movie, I was very hesitant about from the beginning. As a Wonka loyalist, I love the character of Willy Wonka in the films, and we'll talk about it more when we get into other interpretations. I don't think in my lifetime I've ever read a Roald Dahl book. I don't think I have. No part of me wants to. If we're picking like weirdo guys that kids like the books for, I was a Dr. Seuss kid, and that could be its own video too, looking at Dr. Seuss stuff like this. He's just like chaotic and strange, and it's like, what if like this weird creature was just like a lunatic? And Roald Dahl was always like, what if this girl was magic and she like destroyed the planet or something? What if this kid was like inside a peach and like a bug came by him? What if that happened? And I'm just like, I don't give a shit about that, but whatever. So Wonka's my favorite character of like that mythos and that world. And I knew right away, like, this movie's going to be interesting to see what happens. Is it going to work? Is it going to stick the landing? It's really hard to say. I am happy to say, without any questionable doubt, that Wonka is a really, really good movie. I had an absolute blast watching this. It was so much fun. It was so colorful. Every doubt I had about it, it was easily swayed away. Now, there are some stuff in here that doesn't work perfectly, but it is such a fun, vibrant, cool, energetic time at the movies, and it's exactly the type of thing that I would want to see at the end of the year. Where you're just like, we could see Aquaman or we could see Iron Claw and our lives is going to suck for it and just be downers. Two movies I'm very excited to see. I haven't seen either of them at the time of this recording. I'm just really excited to see them, but still, it's like, if I want to go into 2024 happier than I was in 2023, it would be Wonka. It's so lighthearted. It's so entertaining. It's got that Paul King flair of like, it's got a British and we got weird character actors in here, but also just look at these weird sets in this specific world that runs on this one thing. We're not trying to like say this is like some big story where it's like the whole world's ending and there's some big stakes and Willy's the only capable guy in the world. It's not that at all. He's just like, I have a dream. I have to find a way to initiate that dream. It turns out I need help from strangers, and that's the lesson of the movie. I need other people. And that is pretty damn cool. That is pretty damn cool. And it works so well for this kind of a story. Now, Timothée Chalamet, he is a young man, and he is from a specific era of Hollywood where we don't really have leading men being allowed to be playful and cheerful anymore. There always has to be like some brutal dystopian undertone to it. And he's a guy, he's done that. He's a Dune head. He's in Dune and stuff. But he is a guy that perfectly embodies the look of a Willy Wonka. If we're going young, I mean, there's other actors I think could pull it off, but he, of like his caliber and his era, he's an actor that I think is willing to have more fun with it and have that fun feel authentic. I know people were thinking Tom Holland, and I do like Tom Holland, but I will say I think Tom Holland is a little too much like pretty boy. And I think there's just an edge, just a little edge of like cringy, weirdo, like outsider energy that Chalamet has over Holland. Out of that era, I would definitely pick, Chalamet for this. And he is really good in this movie. He plays it so well. And there are times where he tries to lean a little bit more into like the Wilder energy, like the Gene Wilder energy, I should say. And, well, it doesn't necessarily work every single time. I think just because he's not an actor trained to have, like, those loud outbursts where this is a guy who is going to become unhinged, he has to play it in contemporary eyes as this guy who is very charming, very charismatic, and loves this world and the people in it so much that he just wants to share and celebrate with them. So there can't be that level of, like, I'm tired of this world, I'm not longing for it anymore. He has to still be energetic. And we do see moments where I do think where Timothée Chalamet shines the most is the moments where he's like on the up and down and he's kind of like out of the story for a minute, just like, oh man, I was going so good, but I just got knocked down a peg, where he's a little more dramatic actor, but goodness, he's got a good smile, he's got a decent singing voice, and he could show up and do the physicality of like riding a cloud around a candy tree and just kicking up some switches, and it's really fun, and he is so charming in that type of a role. He's very charming, and you buy it so well. And this story goes into so many different directions that you're probably not expecting if you're just walking into this like, hey, okay, so it's how Willy became Wonka. Well, what was his story? He just showed up to like London or something, and then it's a little bit of spoilers, but it doesn't really matter. There's like a chocolate mafia that like runs all of like the chocolate distribution in the city, and they're Slugworth, Prudnose, and Fickle Gruber, and they're like, this kid's got talent. We have to put him down. So they try to shut him down by like getting Keegan-Michael Key, who plays like a police officer, to beat him up and say, if you sell candy in here again, you're gonna be killed. And like you're like, that's a really charming, stupid thing that works for like a stage play. And when you're doing like a Roald Dahl story, yeah, that works fine. Because it makes no sense and it's incredibly silly. And I think we all like it for that. But on top of that story, there is the other kind of more modern take on this, which I guess you have to throw in here because we need like a point of view character that looks at Willy Wonka and is like, this guy's a little bit crazy. So Willy Wonka, he needs to find a place to stay when he comes to the city. He heads over to, it's called Bleacher and Scrubbit and Bleachers, I think. And it's Olivia Colman and Tom Davis, and they're just like, I'm a crazy old man and I'm a crazy broad, and they like have people stay at their place for cheap, and then they like penalty them with a bunch of fines, so they have to work off staying there. And that is when Wonka meets his crew that's going to help him on his journey, which is a bunch of people that were tricked into staying at this house, and they have to work off their debt, but he's going to free them because this is pretty much slave labor, which is in theme with Roald Dahl, I guess. And he also meets Calla Lane, I believe that's the young girl's name. Calla Lane's character, played by Calla Lane. I was going to say played by Noodle. No, she plays Noodle. And Noodle is a young girl that also was like brought to the doorsteps to scrub it, and what's his face? Bleacher, it doesn't matter. And this is where you're like, okay, I know what you're doing, Paul King. You have to have this happen. A lot of modern stories have this young character show up who's new to the world, and we could tell like a new modern story with it. And I get that. It could be more annoying than it is. The character is fine. She has like a subplot of like she's an orphan. She needs to find her parents, and like that's revealed throughout the plot to be connected to main characters. You know how it goes. You've seen a movie like this before. There's always one of these types of characters in these modern movies now. She is less annoying than other versions of this character that we've seen before. Is that saying it's perfect? No. Could the whole plot have been removed? I honestly think so. Like I don't think the movie would change too much without it. It'd be shorter, but I don't hate the character either. I don't think she's like terrible and ruins the plot or anything. She kind of just shows up, does her thing, and she has some really good moments with Chalamet, and that's really cool to see. And it's not more like this is a love story. It's like a fatherly, brotherly figure to her, trying to like help her in the world because she was nice to him. And it all starts with a dream, and he wants to help her get the dream realized. You know how it is. It's fine. Anyways, the Catholic Church is under the thumb of the Chocolate Mafia, and Rowan Atkinson plays like a priest, and it's hilarious. And what are we doing? Like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to do a Willy Wonka prequel, why not have everything revolve around chocolate? Like, that makes sense. The dance numbers are incredible. These songs are incredible. There's a lot of good ones. Yes, we do Pure Imagination. Yes, the Oompa Loompa stuff happens. But there's other just songs of like, Wonka just trying to find words that rhyme with noodle to sing a song for Noodle. And just like the mafia trying to persuade the police sheriff, Keegan-Michael Key, into like having more chocolate because he's got a sweet tooth. And when we first open up the chocolate shop with Wonka, and he's like, this is what you can do. You can eat here and have a good time. It's good food. Everyone's happy. That's pretty cool. It's pretty funny. I'm not going to lie. It's good. It looks great. And the production design is incredible. We know that. Paul King is good at working with great people to do that. I think every actor works great. I don't think there's a single bad performance in the movie. There are people who are like, yeah, we spend a lot of time with these people, and I don't think it's bad. I don't think you need that much of them. And it's fine. And then I do think the biggest criticism, just because it definitely takes us out of the realism more than other things. And I say this as like Willy Wonka creates like a chocolate made out of thunder, and I'm like, I'm on board with that shit. The one thing where when it first happened on screen, I was like, okay, don't know how I feel about this happening, is the stuff with the Oompa Loompa. And I think every subsequent time the character appeared in the movie, it was fine. I will say right now, I saw this in kind of a later screening in the middle of the week, and the audience I saw it with, it was not a full house. I was not there in a full house. The audience I saw this movie with clapped and applauded with cheers when the Oompa Loompa saved the day at the end. I'm like, really? We're that invested in Hugh Grant's Oompa Loompa? And, oh man, he so does not want to be there. He must be doing it for like, what? Does he have kids? I don't know. Is he doing it just for fun? Is he drunk half the time? Maybe. It's lame. And then it kind of like wraps up unceremoniously with like, now it's Willy Wonka time, everybody. You saw how he became Wonka. Now he is Wonka. And that also kind of made me go, okay, but I think this is a good musical with a character that does work for a musical. The story doesn't take itself seriously, so you shouldn't either. Every actor is having fun in a beautiful set with beautiful costumes. It is a really great, fun, friendly period piece to watch this year. I don't know if it's I know for a fact it's not my favorite Willy Wonka movie just because I've seen it once and I've had a huge history with the other two. It's probably better than the Burton one just because that's an insane movie. But Gene Wilder is my favorite actor to live in this era, so that's a whole other thing. But I had an absolute blast with this movie. I do think it'll play well for a lot of people, and there's so much joy to come from this. I hope people like it, because I do think it's genuinely interesting and has a lot going for it. That's a cool thing to see. And in a kind of not even like a lackluster end of the year, just where it's like, yeah, everyone's seen Hunger Games already. I can't imagine Godzilla -1 is going to stay all the way till January. Wonka could be, well, not the way of water. It could just be like the powerhouse that moves us towards the end of the year, which is kind of cool. I mean, I'd imagine in the 22nd, Aquaman will come out on top, and then maybe Poor Things, and then maybe the Iron Claw, but Wonka is definitely going to be the most well-loved for like the bigger blockbuster franchisey characters people know, which is good. Should be. You're going to eat anyone but you's lunch, that's for sure. It's really good. I do recommend checking it out. So, Wonka. How Wonka became Willy? No. How Willy became Wonka. That's his last name, so that's how. I'm going to give an 8 out of 10. Now let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's jump back into the world of Roald Dahl and talk about other interpretations of his work. So come with me, and you'll be in a world of Netflix adaptations. Or maybe not, because have there been any? Besides Wes Anderson making the short film? Have there been? Remember, like a couple years ago, Netflix was like, we got all of Roald Dahl's stuff. We talked to the estate. We're making all the movies, everybody. We're going to do it. Don't worry. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing, everybody. You're going to love it. And then, since then, The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar came out. And that was this year? It came out, and it's a short film. And he did other short films too, but it was like, yeah, The Swan, The Ratcatcher, and Poison, right? Those were the other ones he did on Netflix or something. So Wes Anderson, of course, is just like, I'm just going to make them. It'll be fine. Everyone's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And I haven't watched them, so this is perfect place to talk about it. Look, I don't know. It's so hard to want to watch anything on Netflix these days. Like, I genuinely don't want to watch a Netflix original. And I know it's Wes Anderson, and I probably should because it's like a short film, but yeah, I don't know. I'll probably get to it eventually. I don't think it matters. Like, he did a couple of them. Who really cares? They're fine, I guess. I think people like them, The reviews I've seen have been positive, but I don't think anyone's jumping out of their seat for them. I doubt we'll get any others, because Netflix is terrible at doing anything right, and they're just so bad at everything. But whatever, it's fine. I'm on the Wikipedia for films based on works by Roald Dahl, so, whatever. There's a couple on here that we could talk about. I guess we could start talking about the other Willy Wonka adaptations that there have been. The first one is a film from 1971, so like 52 years ago. Crazy to think about. It is probably the only adaptation I truly, wholly love that is on this list. I've seen a majority of the other ones, and again, Dahl, not my guy. Not a guy I'm like super obsessed with where I need to, get all of this right and perfectly adapted. I like this one just solely because of how ridiculous it is. It's always been a stupid premise to me where it's like a moral of a story lesson kind of thing where it's like, I'm going to give out a golden ticket to 5 kids. They're going to come to my factory, and if I think they're pure of heart and they're good, then I'm going to let them run the factory. That's stupid and dumb, but I kind of love it. I'm kind of obsessed with it. I think it's a really funny thing to do. And it just goes insane. This is an insane movie. Like, everything happens so weirdly. And it's just like, here's this eccentric freak that just shows up randomly, lets you into his factory, and then boom, you start falling through tunnels. When you fall into a lake, you turn into a blueberry. The Oompa Loompas try to murder you. We show you a decapitated chicken in a sequence where everything is spinning and going crazy. It's a weird movie, but it's held together solely for Gene Wilder, who just delivers on a grandiose level. He is such an eccentric guy. He's like the perfect energy for this era of Willy Wonka, where we can still kind of like scare children and make them go, this is fucked up. I'm going to ruin your day. You're going to be freaked out by me. You don't want to be near me. I'm a lunatic. I'm a scary little boy. I'm going to ruin your day. That's awesome. That's like a really cool idea to play with that character. And then 2005, and then in 2005, we have the modern reboot from Tim Burton, which, you know what? I will say, Tim Burton doing a modern retelling of this story, it makes some sense. Like, I think he's like a guy that would like have the same weird eccentricities to pull that off. Maybe he's a little too dark for it, where it's not like, yoo-hoo, we're having fun. He's more like, what is life? Emotion. Death is beyond every corner, you know? Maybe that's what he is. I don't know. It's weird. Like, he makes more sense in like a weird way to do like the Sweeney Todd thing he did. I think that's more like the speed I'd put Tim Burton onto. But whatever, you know, he does this movie. It stars Johnny Depp as the titular. It's not titular, this time it's Charlie, which is the good doctor himself, Freddie Highmore. He is a bucket in this one. And he's fine. He's a kid. There's a lot of just kids in this, which is fine. But Johnny Depp's Willy Wonka. Plays it like Michael Jackson, even though he doesn't supposedly play it like Michael Jackson. It's a disturbed performance in a completely different way. It has too much of like 2005 energy to it, I think, to really be something creative and original. And it's just bizarre. It's such a bizarre little movie. And like the Mike TV kid, what did he become this time? Like Mike Video Games or whatever the hell. Just so dumb. Just so dumb. I don't know. Not one that I like. Not one that I think holds together and is interesting. It's fine. It did really well. I like Deep Roy doing all of the Oompa Loompas. I think he's a cool guy. That's pretty fun. He's been married for 10 years. That's awesome. Good for you, man. 66. He got a good paycheck for that movie. So that matters. So out of like all the Willy Wonka adaptations, I'd probably say my order would be Gene Wilder, then Chalamet, then Depp. But, you know, it could change over time. Maybe over a couple years, you know, Chalamet overtakes it. Maybe Chalamet doesn't hold up. Maybe Gene Wilder doesn't hold up. I think he will hold up, though, because he's just the best. I don't know. We'll see. What else do we got here? We have a 36 Hours is a 1964 American war thriller written and directed by George Seaton, based on a short story, Beware of the Dog, by Roald Dahl. That doesn't really count. He wrote... Which Bond thing did he work on? He worked on a Bond thing. But I don't count this. You know, like, what is this? It's a short little story. This is like the weird, like, eccentric, like, the world's bleak era of Roald Dahl. Because I know he also did a Bond movie, which is just like, who cares? Like, nobody's going to remember you for the Bond movie. You're crazy. You're a weird guy. Which Bond movie was it, though? You could only live twice. You only live twice. Is that the one that Connery came back to do? No, it can't be. I don't like Connery either. Okay. It's hard to talk about this guy because I'm just genuinely not excited about any of these movies except for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. These don't matter to me. These don't matter to me, and I don't find them interesting. You have the BFG adaptations. There was like a television one in the 80s. Who cares? Spielberg made one, and not even he could like make this matter. Nobody talks about it. Nobody thinks about it. It's just like a weird eccentric movie. It's like, look at this guy. What if there's like a big friendly giant, and he was like supposedly cool, and there's cool visuals in the movie, but nobody cares about it. Breaking Point, another, war thriller. Whatever. Whatever. I don't care. I guess it's kind of, is it a sequel? It doesn't matter. Oh my god. These are so boring to talk about. Danny, the champion of the world. What the fuck is this? I don't know. It's just based on that stupid book. What is the plot here? Something dumb? This movie sounds awful. Jeremy Irons is a little boy in it, I guess. He would be young back then, because it's in the 70s. So I guess he would be... No, it's not. It's 89. The novel was written in the 70s. Oh my god, who cares? Whatever. I'm sorry, why am I doing this? These all sound terrible. Fantastic Mr. Fox is... I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. Not my favorite stop-motion Wes Anderson movie. I'm an Isle of Dogs fan. But Fantastic Mr. Fox is probably the best movie on this list. It's a very captivating story. It's solely original. It's like the perfect blend of like two eccentric fuck-ups that are just like, these two guys, you wouldn't normally want to see them together, but if you put Roald Dahl and Wes Anderson together, there might actually be something that genuinely good comes from it. And that's what this is. It's a great voice cast. It's a great use of stop motion. And it's a really fun story that just perfectly blends the two types of like characterization, the two types of like vibes of Wes and Dahl together. And it just makes it work well. It is a really interesting movie. A really fun movie. And easily one of the more interesting ones to come out. James and the Giant Peach. This is from Disney. This was Henry Selick. This was his follow-up to Nightmare Before Christmas, and it's fine. I think the designs are better than the actual movie, and nothing about this one truly holds up. It is worth exploring. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. They were definitely talking about redoing this one in particular at Netflix, but this movie, it's so timeless of like a 90s piece of whatever the hell's going on here, that I don't know why you'd want to attempt to redo it again. It's just so specific and bizarre. Like, what do you really get trying to capture this magic again? I don't know. Probably not much, but hey, if you want to try, do your best. I don't know what you would really do. I think it's like, I do love the designs, and the concept it's fun. It's definitely the more esoteric concept, but whatever. Matilda is another one. And we kind of like, we redid Matilda very recently, like last year on Netflix. So I guess they did that one too, but like that doesn't really count. Matilda's like its own thing. I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've saw Matilda. I never really liked it. Like, it's this girl, she's had a hard time, and she turns out she's special. That's a trope I've never loved. I do love everybody kind of involved in this process. DeVito was really interesting. Nicholas Kazan being like one of the screenwriters to work on it. Rhea Perlman's great. Mara Wilson, I do enjoy. She's a really fun actress. So, you know what? There's something in here, And I know a lot of people like this one, and it's like, probably, like, Danny DeVito has such an underrated career when it comes to his directing. Like, he has directed some really good stuff. And Matilda is a very good it's a very well-directed movie, I should say. That's impressive. Good for him. 79 years old. My goodness. Like, Danny, you're the best. But no, people like this one. I remember like there was clips going around of like the musical reboot that came out recently, and people were like, this is pretty good. It looks interesting, but I don't think it's remembered. Like, it came out last year and nobody's talking about it now. So is that a sign of success, or just like, we made it? Yay. I don't know. These are all just kind of like, why do we keep doing them? Like, Wonka, I get the Wonka stuff. I don't understand why we'd have two movies of the witches. Like, you made a weird, creepy one in the 90s, which was so specific and had, like, some weird energy, and Angelica Houston is just, like, the perfect choice to star in that type of role. And you have, like, disturbing visuals, and everything looks gross and bizarre. And we let things be grimy back then. We let people look grimy and be silly and just have like a stupid, weird energy to it. But rebooting it during the pandemic era with Robert Zemeckis, it's the same thing with the BFG. It's like, you are a guy that doesn't need to make this. Why are you making this? And Anne Hathaway, gorgeous as always in that movie, has a very, very specific vibe to it that I don't dislike. But you're like, Octavia Spencer, Stanley Tucci, what are you guys all doing here? What are we doing? And it just kind of fell flat, and nobody really talks about it. Nobody really remembers it. Ah, God. God, it's all annoying. It's all annoying. Like, why did we do these things? Ugh. And it's weird because every time they've rebooted or like done another version of a classic doll thing like Matilda or The Witches or even the BFG, it's like, why are we attempting this? The ones that people truly wholeheartedly like are the originals of Matilda and The Witches, is Fantastic Mr. Fox, and it's like one of the Wonkas. A generation grew up on the Depp Wonka, but it's not that good. It's not that good, right? They've been teasing for a while that there's going to be like a Twits movie in development, and it's like, who gives a shit? They've been talking about that forever. Currently, the film is set to release in 2025, and I doubt that is going to happen. No way that makes that release date. Because why would it? Why would that? There was also Tom and Jerry go to Willy the Wonka, the Chocolate Factory. Nobody cares. There was like a little Red Riding Hood thing he worked on. What is this one? SEO Trot. What is this? Richard Curtis was the writer. Paul Matthew Archer. Judi Dench, Dustin Hoffman, James Corden. James Corden. This released in 2015. Oh, this was a BBC original movie. Shut up. Shut up. What is this about? What is this about? Based on the 1990 novel S.O. Trout by Roald Dahl, in the film, a retired bachelor falls in love with his neighbor, a widow who keeps a tortoise as a companion after the death of her husband. What the fuck are we talking about? When did Roald Dahl die? Because he wrote this book in the 90s and he died in the 90s. So, were you like old and you fell in love with your neighbor and you're like, I gotta get this on pen and paper? Do we have a list of books here? I'm just combing through Wikipedia. Do we have a list of his books on here? All right. What do we have here? Let's see. Writing, he worked on stuff. None of this is helpful. None of this really helps. Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, I know he worked on that. I fucking hate Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. That's a topic for another day. You only live twice, whatever. Screenplay, what else did he write a screenplay for? A bunch of shit. It does not matter. All right, here's bibliography. Here's some stuff he wrote. God, you've been working forever, dude. Relax a minute, why don't you? The Gremlins we've never done. Never done that one. We've done James, we've done Charlie. We have not done The Magic Finger. That sounds terrible. We have never done the Great Glass Elevator, which is a sequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. You could do it with Timothy if you wanted. Like, if we could do like Timothy, he like just like completely skip the Chocolate Factory shit, and then like the sequel to this movie is The Great Glass Elevator, and then it's, you know, Charlie, get a young kid to do it, and Timothy in a box. Maybe. My Uncle Oswald, we've never done. The Twits, we're teasing about doing. It'd be animated, whatever. George's Marvelous Machine, sure, that'd be fun. BFG, we've done The Draft and The Pelly and Me. That sounds like you could do something fun there. Okay. The Vicar of Nibbleswick, which came out after his death. That sounds boring. And the Min Pins. Okay. Whatever. Again, I couldn't give two shits about any of these books. I like Willy Wonka as a character solely because of Gene Wilder. And I think the Chalamet movie is good. I think it's good. I mean, some of this is bad, but whatever. There's some good stuff, bad stuff. Everything's fine. God, end of the year. I'm really not trying anymore, am I? It's all just whatever to me. It's all just whatever. None of it really is good or bad in any capacity of the word. It's all just stuff. And that's not going to be enough for some people, but it's enough for me. I will say, go out and watch Wonka. It's a really good movie. And on that note, I'll see you at Christmas in the next episode of the GeekWave, and thank you all for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have a dream of pure imagination. Love you all so much. Good luck.